Hello and welcome. So today I'm going to be talking about Octavia, Warframe's resident Buffmaster Flex herself. I'm going to be going over my main build and then discuss some different mod choices, arcane choices, and then different helminth options that you can slot onto her to just go ahead and, make her your own Warframe, as it were. She's got some pretty decent build diversity, so by no means do you have to copy my main build, like mod for mod or anything, because there are some substitutions that you can make, and I'm going to be going over some of those. I'm also going to be showing my Mandachord, my song that I've been using. I'm a decent fan of it. I think it's got some pretty good just general buff uptime, especially when it comes to like the crouching and whatnot to make her go invisible. So that's been pretty good these past... I don't know when I got the song, but I've had the song for a while and it's been pretty solid. So I unfortunately can't link the song in YouTube, but what I will do when I'm going over it is I'll just cycle through the whole Mandachord, and then you can feel free to go ahead and pause the video and then just copy the song like note for note, beat for beat, bar for bar, as it were, if you're trying to get like my same song because you just like it, or you see that it's pretty easy to just go ahead and get invisible or just get all the buffs. I'll also be just very briefly going over her abilities and whatnot. I won't be going into like detail, but I will just highlight like what they do and then some certain interactions that the abilities have. So with that being said, let's just kind of hop into it. So for starters, let's go with the Archon charts here. I've got 3 duration shards, an ability strength shard, and then a casting speed shard. So these are all to taste. You don't have to have any of these, or you can change these to be whatever you'd like. So it's entirely flexible. If you have some, great, slotted honor. If you don't have any, I wouldn't worry about it too much. For her passive, it's a pretty nice passive. She just regenerates energy over time as you just use abilities. So pretty nice passive overall. You're just going to do it naturally as you go through the mission. Her first ability is Mallet. This is essentially just a taunt, and then enemies will shoot into it, and then the Mallet will then absorb that damage and then deal it back to the enemies. This does do pretty healthy damage, to say the least. Her second ability is Resonator, so this is a little roller ball that will taunt and charm foes to go ahead and follow it. It basically acts like a taunt, similar to kind of how Mallet is, except that this can pick up Mallet, as you kind of see in the little video here, and this will actually increase Mallet's taunt level so that more enemies get attracted to it. Notable thing with Resonator is that this is Octavia's subsume, so other Warframes can use the roller ball and then it can charm them or distract them, so that you can put this on like a squishy Warframe, as it were, and then they're more attracted to the ball than they are to, just making your paper mache frame just kind of die. So it can be useful for instances like that. But for Octavia herself, this is probably her worst ability, which says a lot because this is actually a pretty decent ability, but this is usually the one that gets subsumed off. The one that usually doesn't get subsumed off is Metronome. So Metronome is where the just plethora of... well, now I'm here. Metronome is just where the plethora of Korean-style MMO buffs come from. This is going to light up your entire health bar or whatnot with buffs from speed, multi-shot, and then there's even an armor increase in here. And I'm sure that'll be nice for all the persistent shenanigans that are going on. The buffs that are in here are affected a lot by the Mandachord, which I'll highlight later after I go over the build. But yeah, this is where a decent bit of her buffs come from. And then her last ability is Amp. So this is a damage multiplying ability that will give you a lot more damage on your weapons, and it gains that damage by just all of the sound in the local area, which is you just playing the game, shooting things, using your abilities. It also counts for the enemies as well, so you get the damage, you hit the maximum damage multiplier pretty quickly, to say the least. Notable that because this is a damage amplifying ability, you cannot subsume Roar on her without getting rid of Amp, and you really don't want to do that. So unfortunately, you can't run both Amp and Roar in a different slot. Also with Amp, it says that it doubles the damage and range of Mallet. the range part is correct. It does double the range, but based off just some little of the minor testing that I've done and some stuff that I've read about, I don't think it actually doubles the damage. Not that big of a deal. Mallet's still really, really good at just dealing the damage back at the enemies and it doing a ton of damage, but just a little notable call out that I would just kind of highlight. And then for my build itself, not this, but this. So I'm just going to be going over the mods here just kind of briefly. I've got Corrosive Projection, Prime Sheer-Footed, Rolling Guard, Augur Reach, Archon Stretch, and Overextended. These three are just for all my range. I've got Blind Rage, and then Umbral Intensify for power strength, Prime Flow for a bunch of energy, and then Prime Continuity for a bunch of duration. Speaking of duration, I've got Arcane Concentration, and then for just more power strength, I've got Molt Augmented. And then, as you can kind of tell over here, the subsume that I went for, that I've had a lot of success with, has been Bright Bonded. So this gives just a lot of extra energy, and then this also gives a lot of extra ability strength as well, which are all things that really do benefit Octavia. So, some notable little quick call-outs here. I've got Prime Sheer-Footed in the Exila slot for whatever reason. Even though I'm using invisible frames, I swear I've got a giant, like, kick me sign on me or something, so I always get, like, the AoE effects on me. I always get CC'd. I always, like, something always happens to me. So to get around that, I've got Prime Sheer-Footed and I've got Rolling Guard. These basically help with my just survivability and sustain while I'm invisible, just for, like, when those instances happen. If that does not happen for you, you can feel free to take out Prime Sheer-Footed and you can throw in something like Cunning Drift and go for even, like, maxer range. Even though I've got a lot of range on here, you can go for max range. You can go for something like Power Drift and get more power strength. You can go for something like Preparation and just have a bunch of starting energy. You can slot whatever you want here, but for me, I just like PSF. Same thing goes for Rolling Guard. If you're not getting affected by statuses or anything, you can go ahead and swap this mod out for whatever you'd like. But I do like this in case if, you know, you're in Metronome or you've got Metronome active and you haven't been paying attention too much to your invisibility and you kind of get caught being visible. Enemies do tend to target you kind of immediately, so it is nice to just go ahead and then roll. Then you've got some seconds of invulnerability, and given the song that I have, you can go back to being invisible pretty quickly, so I do really enjoy it for that. Also, I talked about the range of the build. Depending on, like, the game mode that you're playing or whatnot, you can get rid of Overextended entirely. I just like having a bunch of range because I just like being able to, like, reach all of my allies. That way I make sure that they get all of the buffs, so that's why my range is as high as it is. And then especially with us getting those new Incarnates, we're going to be playing a lot of circuit, and the circuit maps can be pretty big. So I want to make sure that I can buff as many of my allies as I can. So again, that's why this is in here. But if you're not playing that or you're playing something a little more, you know, concentrated, you can feel free to use anything like the Augur Message, Augur Secrets, anything like that. If you want more power strength, you can even go for something like Transmute Fortitude. You know, just pick whatever you'd like to go in these open slots if these don't apply to you, but this is what I've kind of settled on as far as the mod choices go. And then for the arcane tier, pretty notable that I'm not running Crepuscular. Crepuscular is very strong while she's invisible, and this also gives you the ability to run that special Serration mod that gives like 300% damage on your rifles. I forget the name of it, but you have to be invisible for it to work. So I opted to not use this just so that I can use concentration. So that I can go ahead and just have a bunch of ability duration on my build. I had to re-equip that. Because when it comes to Octavia, the biggest, I think, pitfall that she kind of has is that you're just managing a bunch of timers. And having more duration on the build, I think, alleviates some of that, you know, timer management uptime concerns that not only myself, but I think a lot of other players may have. So that's why I opted for that and not Crepuscular. If you don't mind just, recasting your abilities a little more often, Crepuscular, of course, gives you more ability strength and then a final critical damage buff on top of that. So by all means, if you want the damage, go for this, but I chose to go for the just extra duration to go ahead and just make everything just feel a lot better for myself personally. And then also in the same vein for Molt Augmented, you don't have to necessarily run this either. You can also go ahead and exchange this out for something like Arcane Energize, since these are making the rounds now. And I think we're going to be getting a new event soon. So if you don't have Energize, I'd stick around for that event, because that should, I think, be coming up so you can get it pretty easily. If you also have more survivability problems, you can also just substitute this out for Arcane Aegis as well, and then that can make her pretty tanky too. So those are the mod choice and everything. Overall, I really like the build. This is really solid. Bright Bonnet it has been pretty good for me on Octavia personally, but I've been using like a host of other just abilities and helminths on her. Like Condemn was actually pretty fun to just go ahead, because of all the range that I have, just throwing out the Harrow's chains and whatnot and just getting a bunch of shields was pretty nice. Using Nourish is always pretty good as well. Pillage also works for going ahead and like stripping armor and getting shields. In the vein of just stripping a bunch of armor, you've got Fire Blast, Ophidium Eyes, and Terrify. Those are all really good armor strips. There's just a lot of different subsumes that you can use. I just chose Bright Bonnet. And then if you pick one of the other subsumes that doesn't give you a lot of energy, you might want to substitute out Blind Rage for Transient Fortitude here, just so that you're not totally negative on your efficiency and you can maintain the build. But I do get a lot of extra energy from Bright Bonnet. And then also notable here before I go over to the Mandachord, you do not have to use Archon Stretch. This is merely just here because I have the mod space for it in my build, and then also because of the companion that I'm going to be using, which I'll show off after the Mandachord. So, with that being said, here is my Mandachord that's got the song that I use on it. Again, this has been just really good for just general good buff uptime and whatnot. And then this is the part where you would go ahead and then pause. I'm going to go through each section. I won't go through them like quickly. I'll talk a little bit, then I'll, switch over like that so that it can give you guys some time to go ahead and make sure that you can pause the video and get everything. You don't have to, play the video at like 0.5 speed or something to just try and make sure that you get everything. So, yeah, this should be enough time to have anyone just go ahead, pause it, copy it, get what you need, have fun, by all means. Unfortunately, I'm not a, musician, as it were, so I can't do some of the more interesting things that I've seen people do with the Mandachord, but this song has worked pretty well for me, so if you do copy it, I hope it works very well for you. And this should be the last little bit here. I wish I had a little bit more to say here. I know a little bit about how the Mandachord works, but I just know that this song has worked very, very well for me, and the buffs have been wonderful. So hopefully, again, same thing goes for you as well, and I think that was all of them. So I hope you like the song if you go ahead and copy it. So, and then I did talk about my companion, so I'm going to be using the Panzer Vulpaphyla. And then I'm going to be spreading a bunch of viral here with the quills, of course, so that I can get some viral just priming on a bunch of enemies to go ahead and just make everything be a lot stronger. I've showed this build off before in the past. This hasn't really changed too much here. Just showing that off. And then here are the claws, and this is the setup for that. The Shocking Claws here is how I can use the Archon Stretch here, because this goes with the quills, and that counts as an ability. So Archon Stretch will then activate and proc, and then I can go ahead and start regenerating energy off of Archon Stretch. So that's how that interaction works. The same thing goes for the Diriga as well. If you wanted to run a different companion, something like Worm here, to go ahead and just try and cleanse you of statuses with like negate, and then you get Guardian too to just go and get some of your shields back. Here's a quick little build for that if you didn't want to use the Panzer file, or maybe you don't have one. Here's a quick little build for the worm. This would be my other companion of choice. Then here's a quick little run through of the Tazakor that you can run. And then here's a different one in case if you're having, again, like more survivability issues or whatnot. This will strip a bunch of armor, and then the cold is going to freeze them in place, and this has over 90 status, so they're going to get frozen pretty quickly with this. But I'm going to show off the Panzer just to show that you don't necessarily need to have a worm or anything. And then the weapons, these aren't really necessary to go over, because you can just use whatever, because she just buffs everything like crazy, because that's just what she do. But I will just kind of show off what I'm using. I just kind of feel like using the Nadaruk today. And then this is the build that I use. I know that I am using the longbow sharp shot here. You don't have to necessarily use this. You can use something like Deadhead, or you can use Merciless. If you're running this on a different Warframe that has a bunch of armor, you can even use Bulwark here as well. But you don't really need longbow, but I just have it, so I'm just going to use it. And then I'm going to also be using the Bladem. Again, with us getting more Incarnans and whatnot, I figured I would show off an Incarnan here. Probably with like the influx of newer players, maybe. I'm looking for a Ladem build. I think mine's pretty good. I'm just highlighting over my evolution so they know what to go for. And then this is my Ladem build that I'm using, running the Cascadia Flare here for just a bunch of base damage, so that's why I don't have Hornet Strike in the build. And if you don't have the Prime Fulmination here, you can of course just run Hornet Strike in its place and just get more damage like that if you don't have it, but I just like having the extra range on the explosive rounds when those go off when you're in the Incarnate form. And then also on the explosive rounds, that's also why I'm not running the Galvanized Shot here, because Gun CO doesn't work on explosions, unfortunately. So I just went for more status damage. You can change this to be whatever you'd like, but this has worked very well for me. And the Harmony is the same build that I had in the Varuna video. This is the exact same. I don't think I'll use this too much, so if you want an actual demonstration of what this thing can do, I would go watch my Varuna video. Shameless plug. And I think that is everything. And then I'm running Xenric, but I don't think I'm going to really be needing or using that too much. But I think that is everything. So let's go ahead and do... That was odd. Let's go ahead and just do this little survival, and I can show off the build and what it do and how to do it. Alrighty. Here we go. Let's just jump on this thing really quick and just get some energy going. There we go. Just gotta remember to bounce on this thing a little bit. Do this, crouch a little. See, get a bunch of health, or get a bunch of health. You get the invis like really quick with this. Then they're dead. All right, let's just throw out me mallet. Then do this. Spam this again to go ahead and refresh the invisibility. And here we go. And then I try to lead using all of my abilities with my 2, because I don't really care about the duration on Bright Bonnet, so then I can just cast everything, and then it gets the bonus from the Arcane Concentration, so it all gets the extra. That was 2 million. It gets the extra duration bonus. So I don't have to worry about the uptime or anything. I just have to make sure that I just spam crouch every, once in a while. But yeah, this is Octavia in the big 2026. And yeah, I know the thumbnail is going to, question if she's still OP or strong or whatnot. And, suffice to say, yeah, she's still pretty strong. I don't think she's as, dominant or anything in the meta like she was, but she's still pretty strong. She was a pretty ahead of her time Warframe, to say the least. I'm just throwing this thing down hallways and just committing like genocide.
Support capsule to the area. Activating it will buy
So
you more time.
yeah. All right, let's show off the Latum a little bit. Ooh, I need to. Woo! You gotta really make sure that you keep that invis up, because I got a little lucky that there weren't any enemies around to go ahead and just pop me. All right, gotta get these headshots. That's fine. All right, drop this. Do this. Get me mallet. Refresh this, and then now we just kind of, I think, hit the ceiling. Well, not the ceiling, but this thing. But yeah, and then you just kind of get to see there's nothing over there. Here we go. I think they were hitting the mallet. You know, it's weird. I say how much those statuses and AoE things hit me, but this run, for the most part, I haven't been hit by them, which I find funny. Because normally they're just attracted to me like you wouldn't believe. It is really like I've got like a kick me sign on me sometimes. Go ahead and get these things active. Throw the mallet over there. That can go ahead and just hammer that down. Get more headshots with this. And spend some time. Gotta do this. Yeah, you really want to make sure that you've got your invisibility basically like all set up. Otherwise, if you're caught with your pants down, she will kind of, well, explode. But yeah, this run's almost done. Hopefully I get an acolyte to show up, and there's a status. Granted, I did kind of walk into that one, but still. I cannot wait for some of these new incarnates we're getting, because I don't have any. Hello? Oh, it was active. I didn't notice. Woo! Well, thought I went invisible when I did. Alright, let's get up and add a again. This thing is so much fun. You just get to like hurl tree trunks at people, basically. But I'm very curious to see how the incarnates are and work and operate and everything. Because I've seen some stuff about the Stug, and that looks pretty interesting. So hopefully the Stug ends up being pretty damn strong. Boy, funny enough, I think I've had a Stug ribbon for I don't know how many years. I've just kept it because it was, you know, funny little meme ribbon, little meme weapon and whatnot. Didn't think it actually come in handy, but depending on how good the incarnate is, I might roll that and I might get something kind of crazy. You know? You never know. I think I bounced on the mushroom. Think of the mushroom. Let's go ahead and just do that anyways.
Our operative is making progress. This will help our
interesting.
cause.
I'm in Steel Path, aren't I? Yeah, I'm in Steel Path. Aha, there we go. I just had to say something. Alright, let's go ahead and just re-up everything. I can't aim. There we go. See? No problem. They can't see me. They can't hurt me. Usually. I'll say usually. Although with me, that's kind of hit or miss. Kind of, literally. Please don't hate me. I already hate myself enough for that joke. Please don't. Alright, well, that is the end of the run. I hope that, you know, you give Octavia a shot. You give the song a shot. Tell me how it is. If you have any questions, let me know down below. If you stick around this long, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. And I'll catch you next time. Thank you. Later.
You exist to strike. You strike to win.